Congratulations, you finally decided to ditch that unsightly factory accessory drive setup and bought yourself a mid-mount accessory drive kit from Holley Performance. It just so happens that Stewie here, my 1951 Studebaker, is a perfect candidate for that swap. So I'm going to show you just how easy it is to install today. First, you'll need to remove the factory AC compressor, alternator, power steering pump, as well as the water pump and any brackets, belts, or bolts associated with them. To save some time, I went ahead and did this ahead of time. Next, we need to address the crank pulley. Included in the mid-mount kit is a new crank hub, dampener, and pulley, as well as new crank bolt. So we'll need to remove the old dampener assembly using an LS style puller like this one, which can be purchased or even rented at most auto parts stores. Be sure to keep the old bolt. We'll need to use it again later on. Once you have the factory accessories and dampener removed, it's a good idea to take a rag or a wire brush and clean any road grime or gasket material that may remain on the surface of the block. It's also a good idea to check for any oil leaks in the front timing cover and replace the gasket if needed. Now that we have a clean slate, we can begin the installation process. The first thing you'll need to do is break open your box, lay out all the pieces found in your kit. Once you locate the instruction manual, open it to page 2 and 3. Be sure that you have all the parts listed. The first thing you'll need to do is take a look at the back side of your water pump housing. You'll find a threaded port. Use this port to connect the steam lines to. We supply an 1/8 inch MPT plug to block it off if you're not going to use it. But since I'm using the Earl steam tube adapter kit, I'm going to install the 1/8 inch MPT to AN adapter that's found in the Earl's kit. Don't forget to apply some PTFE paste to the threads, then install and tighten. Now we need to install the water pump onto the pump housing. Use the included gasket. Line up the holes, making sure that the alignment pin in the housing will line up with the hole in the pump assembly. Use the 6 M6x20 bolts to secure the pump to the pump housing. Be sure you don't mix these up with the 2 M6x18 bolts. Install the bolts through the cutouts in the pulley, then tighten them evenly. Torque the bolts to 85 inch-pounds. Now we need to install the hub assembly onto the crank itself. It helps to lubricate the inside bore of the new hub with a light coating of motor oil. The LS crankshaft is tapered, so you'll need to slide the hub on by hand, hold it, and gently tap into place. You'll need to use an installation tool similar to this one to install the new hub. Thread the tool into the crank, then use a wrench to slowly draw the hub onto the crank. You'll need to have someone securely hold the flywheel, or use a flywheel holding tool when you do this. Applying some oil to the outside of the hub helps to prevent any damage to the crank seal. There we go. Reinstall the original crank bolt that we removed earlier. And torque to 240 foot-pounds. Now remove the old bolt. And install the new one. The new bolt gets torqued to 59 foot-pounds. Now install the dampener onto the hub. It's a tight fit, so first align the holes, then with some force, gently tap it on until it's completely seated. Line up your holes and install the 6 bolts supplied. The final step to properly installing your crank bolt is to tighten the bolt an additional 125 degrees. I find it a little easier to do this with the bouncer already installed, since it's already marked 360 degrees. Now reference the position of your wrench handle and mark or place a piece of tape where 125 degrees of rotation would be obtained. Now rotate the bolt 125 degrees. The installation process is now complete and you can remove your flywheel holder. Now we can install the pulley itself. If you find it's too difficult to get the pulley on, you can place it in your freezer for a minimum of 3 hours. Remove it from the freezer and install immediately. Now we can install the pump housing. Install the 5 M8 by 115 millimeter and the 1 M8 by 50 millimeter bolts into the prospective holes. Next, install the included water pump gaskets and line up the holes in the housing with the holes in the front of your engine block. Tighten and torque all 6 bolts to 18 foot-pounds. Now we can install the thermostat and the thermostat housing into the water pump housing. Use the 2 supplied M6 by 18 bolts to secure the thermostat housing, but be careful not to over-tighten the bolts. The mid-mount accessory drive actually has a really cool convenient feature. It has an extra set of ports. There's a pair on the side and a pair on the bottom for your heater hose, return, and supply lines. You just need to choose which one you're going to use and either put the plugs in it or put the nipples in it. Don't forget your PTFE paste. Be sure you install the smaller 5/8 inch nipple in the rear port only. Now we're ready to install the 150 amp alternator. The M10 by 75 socket head goes in top, and the M10 by 80 button head goes in the bottom hole. Torque both bolts to 36 foot-pounds. Next, we can install the power steering pump and reservoir, but first you'll need to install the included hardline. Remove the rubber plug from the pump and place a crush washer on either side of the hardline. Then install the banjo bolt and torque it to 25 foot-pounds. Turn the pump around and install the M8 by 20 flanged head bolt to secure the hardline to the pump and torque it to 18 foot-pounds. Now we can install the power steering pump assembly. Simply line up the 3 holes in the housing with the threaded holes in your pump. Install the M8 by 30 bolts included in the kit and torque them to 18 foot-pounds. Now we can install the power steering pump pulley. Align the pulley with the shaft and press firmly. Now, using an installation tool that can be found at most any auto parts store for sale or for rent. Thread it on until it stops. Then use the wrench to evenly draw the pulley onto the shaft. As the pulley gets drawn further onto the shaft, you may need to use a wrench to prevent the pulley from turning. The pulley is fully seated when both the pump shaft and pulley hub are perfectly flush. This assures proper belt alignment. Now we can take our AC compressor and using the 2 M8 by 95 socket head bolts, preload one on the interior location. But do not tighten. Now we can carefully line up the bolt and install our second bolt from the back side through the compressor and the housing. Now tighten and torque both compressor bolts to 18 foot-pounds. Now we can install our belt tensioner using the M8 washer and the M8 by 70 button head bolt. Line the 2 locating tabs up onto the housing and install the M8 flat washer and M8 by 70 bolt. Don't forget to torque to 18 foot-pounds. Now locate the serpentine belt found in your kit and the belt routing diagram that's found in the instruction manual. It seems to work best for me if you install the belt on all the grooved pulleys first, then you can use your 1/2 inch wrench and move the tensioner down. This allows you to slip the belt onto the water pump last. If you chose the premium kit, you'll also receive these 3 covers, one for your compressor, one for the belt tensioner, and one for the alternator. For the alternator, you can slide the O-ring into the inside groove and then press the cover on. For the AC compressor, simply line up the holes and install the included hardware. The tensioner cover is a little tricky. You'll need to align the square in the bracket with the square cutout in the tensioner, but you'll have to start at a 90-degree angle from the back side, then rotate it in. Now align the cover with the holes in the bracket and install and tighten the 2 screws evenly. And that completes our installation of the Holley mid-mount accessory drive system on Project Stewie. Don't forget to make your electrical connections at the alternator, plumb your power steering pump, and make the connections for your radiator and heater hoses. It's also a good idea to have a qualified mechanic connect and charge your AC system before you start it. Thanks for watching today. For more great installation videos, visit our website at holley.com or visit the Holley Performance channel on YouTube.